What is up, everybody? What is up? I'm a ghost from your past that you didn't know you needed, but now that I'm here, you know you needed me.
Mm.
And I'm back with my boy Deontay.
What's going on, guys?
We're
Long
gonna
time no
be.
see.
It's been a while. I think it was March. We talked about Dune. I think me and you the last time we were on this podcast was like January or something.
Yeah, it's been a wow, man. think we were reviewing.
I think we were wrapping up the year.
Yeah, the yearly wrap up. Damn.
So which it's been a long time for Jacob's Film Perspectives, but I'm here. I haven't been posting as much. I've still been posting out of theater reactions though, that are doing pretty good on TikTok. If y'all want to follow me on TikTok, that's where they've been hitting the most. Instagram's okay, Facebook, but yeah, TikTok. Follow me on TikTok. I do out of theater reactions on there.
Yeah,
And
TikTok's where it's at.
Get fast views fast, but yeah, we're here to talk about A24's first trilogy, Maxxxine, the end of it. And then I'll say a little bit about Eggs and Pearl. And then we're going to talk about Longlegs. And I think I want to get into Longlegs first, just because I have less to say. In Maxxxine, I have so much to say with that trilogy, and I've seen it twice now. And I want to be able to really dive deep into that. But yeah, Jacob is back.
Hey.
Daddy's here.
Rockstar.
And now, with that being said, the weird segue, cue the intro. It's such a classy intro. I miss
it. Is.
It's been a while. I miss seeing it.
Makes you want to drink wine and watch movies. That's what it makes you feel
it makes
like.
me feel like Martin Scorsese. I've been down the rabbit hole of playing too much college football lately. So I got to get back in my movie mode, and that put me in the movie mode.
Yeah, and, the movie mode is where it's at.
By college football, I mean the game. Obviously, I don't play college football. I mean, look at me. But yeah, the game's
the height of a quarterback.
Yeah, about the height, but that's it.
Man,
I'd be destroyed. But anyway, let's get into. I guess we can just hop right into it and just dive right into Longlegs.
Oh man, first topic of the night.
Directed by Osgood Perkins. Which, if y'all didn't know, and I actually didn't know this until recently, that he is the son of Norman Bates. He is the son of Anthony Perkins, who plays Norman Bates in the original Psycho.
Wow.
That's his son. I didn't know that until I figured that out recently. Anthony Perkins is a classic actor. He was also in The Trial, directed by Orson Welles. That's a movie that nobody knows about. That's the best Orson Welles movie, by the way, over Citizen Kane. I'll die on that hill.
On that hill.
And that's some classy film. That's some film bro talk for you there.
Mm-hmm.
Most people won't even know what The Trial is or Orson Welles probably, but yeah, it's Osgood Perkins. He's the son of Anthony Perkins, great actor. His dad was, and he's a great director. He directed The Black Coat's Daughter before this, and I don't know what else he's directed. I've only seen The Black Coat's Daughter by him before. And I only saw that because it's an A24 horror film, so I'm going to watch that. And I mean, I think for the first time, this is the earliest I've ever done it. I'm doing my A24 plea and beg right now. A24, if you're seeing this, hire me. Hire Deontay as well. We're a package deal.
Yes,
we come together. Hire everybody that's been on this show. A24, I love you. I have your shirts. I have your I wear socks with your thing on it. That sounded dirty, but I do. I wear socks with your logo on it. A24, please hire me. Neon too, that made Longlegs. Come on, I just saw you picked up Chris Stuckman. He's a YouTuber. He's a movie reviewer. They just picked up his new movie. Option me for something. I mean, I'm a director. I have a film degree. Come on. But anyway, that's my A24 plea. But yeah, Black Coat's Daughter blew me away. I watched it on HBO Max like a few months ago. So I hadn't seen it. It came out in 2015, 2016, around that area. Blew me away.
Yeah.
One of the great. It's such a slow burn, but it's one of the great horror films of the past 10 years for sure. And on Letterboxd, it doesn't seem to get that love. I've seen on Letterboxd, it kind of doesn't receive that love, but it doesn't get high ratings. But for me, it was like a near perfect movie. It's just really great. But so going into this, I was super hyped, super excited. I'm a huge Nicolas Cage fan. Anything Nicolas Cage, I will watch.
Man,
Give me Nicolas Cage. I've seen some terrible movies with Nicolas Cage in it. But I mean, give me Nicolas Cage. Give me the rage of the cage.
I wish Nicolas Cage found himself a home in movies, like, because I want like a consistent trilogy of Nicolas Cage movies, same story, same high quality screenplay, and just Nick Cage being himself. Like, so far he hasn't had like a full on trilogy or just consistent story and sequels in film yet. And man, I want to see him shine. He deserves to shine.
Yeah,
He's a good dude.
He has some great performances, but usually, he's very hit or miss. But I love Nicolas Cage nonetheless. And Micah Monroe, she's one of my favorite actresses.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing her being the FBI agent, they're saying she was going to be like the Clary Starling character of the movie.
Yeah.
And from Silence of the Lambs, if you don't know that. And she's been in It Follows, The Guest, Watcher, which is a very underrated movie. If you have not seen The Watcher, it came out in 2022. One of my favorite movies of 2022. Went under the radar. Very low budget movie. I think Neon actually produced that one too. I'm not sure. I have the Blu-ray of it, but definitely check that out if you haven't. If you like Micah Monroe, that's one of her underseen ones. And then her best performance, probably in The Watcher too. But yeah, she was in this. Nicolas Cage was in this. The marketing was in. Let's just talk about the marketing. The marketing was impeccable.
They went all the way off with this marketing.
I was blown away by the marketing. I have a minor in marketing. I had marketing classes in college, and it blew me away. Like, I have some experience in marketing, so and like seeing that, I was like, oh my God, these people are geniuses. They are just.
They went all out.
The one with her, and it shows her first reaction to his face, but they block out his face, so you don't get to see his face, but you get to see. And they had a heart rate monitor on her to show her heartbeat. Like, that is just super. I will say the marketing. I don't want to give away my thoughts on the movie, but the marketing may be better than the movie. Honestly, like, it was just like one of the best marketing campaigns of a film I've ever seen. So shout out to Neon for that. Their marketing department is killer. I mean, just absolutely great. I will say, though, this movie is being compared to Silence of the Lambs and stuff like that, and it's being pretty overhyped all over social media right now. And we got to stop that, because it's not going to live up to. Silence of the Lambs is one of the greatest movies ever made, in my opinion. It's in my top 20 for sure, maybe even top 10 favorite films of all time. Like, I mean, I love it that much. This movie was never going to reach those heights. That was just a perfect mixture of everything at the right time. So I feel like we should stop comparing movies before they come out with those early reactions. I take those early reactions in stride.
Yeah.
Because take it with some salt, because like I was like, okay, now we're getting a little crazy. The scariest horror film of the decade. This movie did not even scare me once, but
man.
We'll get into that. What do you think about it initially? What were your things going in? Did you have any preconceived notions or anything?
Man, I really wish they didn't go out on a limb and call it the scariest movie of 2024. And just like 2024 isn't even over yet, and I've al- well, I don't remember all the movies I've seen up until now this year, but I have seen at least one other horror movie. I think this year we've had The First Omen and the movie with Sydney Sweeney. Also, those are really good contenders for the top horror movies of the year. But Longlegs is one of those movies where it's just like you go in expecting to get frightened and deeply disturbed. You don't get frightened; you get more disturbed than anything. This is a very disturbing movie. They try to keep it grounded in reality as possible with the FBI agents that's investigating this serial killer that's on the loose. And they didn't reveal too much in the trailer. So going into the theaters, all of us had absolutely no idea that we're dealing with like a Charles Manson level of serial killer. He's a part of the occult. A lot of the people die because of satanic causes, and the problem was that they had to solve these murders and connect him to it to make so that they could like actually lock him up for killing people, and they just couldn't. They didn't have anything on him. It's just like the whole investigation led to a point where the lead agent on this case, Lee Harker, played by Michael Monroe, she comes to find dolls that are like basically enchanted with witchcraft, and that's what's been driving all these family murders. And how these dolls are delivered to each household where all the victims are, I'll probably let Jacob elaborate a little bit more on what happened in the story. But not a lot of people that I talked to have been satisfied with the way things like came back around full circle, and it's almost like it didn't complete the circle. So it's just like a lot of questions need to be answered. The movie honestly should have been a whole lot longer. It's only like an hour and 15, yeah, like an hour and 15 minutes long. And like, bro, you could have just went all out. Give us 2 hours and 30 minutes to explain everything. Give us a little bit more backstory on Micah getting into the FBI business, and then what led to all this black magic use, and how does this black magic affect her? Because the movie started with people telling Lee Harker that she's probably a psychic, but the truth is she just has like some kind of weird connection to the black magic, and that's what's helped her solve these cases about everybody that's getting murdered by these dolls, or under the influence of these dolls, so to speak. So very interesting concept. It had a lot of potential to be an awesome movie. There were so many things that Osgood did right, but the things that he did wrong, like a whole bunch of minor mistakes piled up on top of each other, and they ended up leading to this movie not even being in the A range for me.
Yeah, what you said. I mean, what you said. I have similar thoughts. He's known for. I will say he's known for creating, at least from the two movies I've seen and what I've read on his other films. He's known for creating a type of dread, a type of atmosphere where you feel dread and you feel like you're in an atmosphere. And I will say he is great at creating that atmosphere. The cinematography was beautiful. All the performances were great. Besides, I'll get into what my issues with some of them, but Micah Monroe was perfect. She was great in the movie. She did everything she could. But yeah, the buddy of mine that I watched it with, he's more of a classic movie guy, and he said the first half of this movie was some of the best cinematography filmmaking he's seen in the last 5 years. And I agree with him on that. There were some great shots, I mean, he sets the atmosphere. He sets it up perfectly. Like he sets the ball on the tee perfectly. When he swings, it's not a home run. Mm-hmm. That's like the best analogy I can give for it.
Yeah.
It's more like a double, but like he can, he sets up the atmosphere perfectly, beautiful cinematography, and it's like the second half he didn't know where to go with the story, so we just kind of drag along. And that's another thing you said, it should have been longer. I agree. It should have either been longer or he could have cut some stuff out and made stuff simpler. But like, I think I looked up the runtime. It's an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It should have been what you said. It should have been a crime thriller epic, like you said. I think it could have worked as that. Like you said, 2.5 hours. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's long," but like movies are that long nowadays. I mean, that's just the trend. I don't think it would have hurt this movie if it would have helped flesh out the issues. But they also, and I see a version of this movie that could have been shorter, that they could have cut out some stuff, made some stuff simpler, and just not be so predictable. That was one of my biggest issues with this movie. I saw exactly where it was going. Like I knew the end of it. I didn't know about the witchcraft stuff, so it got me with that. Like I said, the first half, I was like, okay, this is an A territory. This is a great movie. The second half is where it starts to lose me, because I predicted that Micah Monroe was going to. I predicted that her mom was going to be the one that helped him out. I saw that coming 30 minutes before it gets revealed. I was like, I bet her mom's the one. When they introduce the idea that he's not, because the movie is kind of presented as Nicolas Cage is working alone. But when you go into this movie, like Deontay said, it's more like cult, satanic, like it's like this whole cult, which that is not fleshed out at all. They just say, oh, it's a cult, but we see him and her mom. I mean, where's the rest of the cult? How did all this come about? I mean, if you're going to bring up cult stuff, I mean, maybe go into it a little bit more if you're going to go that route.
Right.
But yeah, so like so the mom's the helper. Well, I figured out once they said that there's somebody else helping him, I was like, I bet the mom's in on it. Just the way the performance was and the way she was acting, it was the way she was written. Anybody who's seen a horror film could see the writing on the wall. Like, oh, this girl she's in there.
Yeah.
She's in there. And like, there's just some goofy stuff in here where like Nicolas Cage, I guess we can get into spoilers now. It's been a week, so we can get into spoilers. Nicolas Cage, that scene with Micah Monroe when she finally confronts him face to face is great. And then he commits suicide. He kills himself by smacking his head on the table repeatedly.
Yeah.
And just the gore effects of that. First of all, I don't think somebody could do that to their face on their own. And it just felt like it was overuse of gore for overuse of gore. And it just made the death goofy. And that's where I lean into Nicolas Cage. I love you, Nicolas Cage, but they didn't rein him in enough. They did not rein him in enough. Like, he was really good. I'll give him that. He was really good. But he could have been one of the best serial killers in movie history if they would have just reined him in. The whole setup, the makeup, the way he looks like Marilyn Manson, the makeup, just like that was creepy. Like the beginning, how it doesn't show his face, and then you see his face come down. The way he was portrayed, like I said, the first act was just perfect, and it's just like it all went downhill from there. My friends, on the way home, I was riding with my friend. He said it felt like a train that was just going straight on the tracks, and then it just hit something and just straight derailed. And I mean, that's the best way I can explain this movie, is it did derail, sadly. And that sucks, because this was my most anticipated movie besides Maxxxine and The Fall Guy for this year. I was so excited once I saw Nicolas Cage and Micah Monroe, a neon joint. I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. And then I watched The Black Coat's Daughter, and I was like, oh, the director of this is directing Longlegs. I was like, oh my God, I really got to see this. I was like, let's go. And then the marketing hooked me in even more. And yeah, it's just my issues with it are nothing was fleshed out enough. Everything was so surface level that I give it a B+. I give it a 3.5 out of 5 for the fact, because of the beautiful cinematography, Michael Monroe's great performance. She's acting her ass off in this. The first act being almost near perfect. That first act wins it a lot of goodwill with me.
Mm-hmm.
But then once the story derailed, it just kept going down. And like B+ is being a little generous for me because the more I thought about it, I was like, I'm going to see it again this weekend. Hopefully, I want to try to see it again this weekend. I hope, and see if maybe I missed something because I went on Letterboxd after I got home from the theater that night. And there are so many 5-star reviews for this movie and like high reviews. Like this movie is terrifying. This is a great movie. And like I was reading all these reviews and I was just like, am I missing? But then I thought about me actually, because me and Deontay, we are actually in the same theater. We didn't even plan it.
At all.
Our universes aligned and we came together. One being.
Stars aligned.
But yes, we were in the same theater and like talking with you and Blake and then my friend Lawson. All of us, we kind of had the same issues. We had the same problems. We all thought the same things. So I was like, well, that's 4 people, different people that saw the same movie that came out with similar thoughts. So I thought I was in the majority with the thoughts, but apparently I've been seeing more and more positive than negative. So I think we might be in the minority here talking about this movie. But yeah, like I don't know. Like the concept is cool. The somehow the soul of the kid or something is in the doll, and then when you shoot it, you're freed, and somehow you're trapped in it. But it was just the way it was executed, the way it was written. It just was not fleshed out enough. It was all surface level. It was predictable, and I feel like every time I talk about this movie, I've talked about this movie to a few people over the last week. And every time I talk about this movie, I feel like all I say is negative things. But like I said, it's a B+. It's still a really good grade. I really liked it because of that first act, because of the cinematography, because of Michael Monroe's performance, because of the cool concept, the cool idea. We haven't seen really a serial killer movie. We've seen cult serial killer movies before, but not in this odd style where it's very suspenseful and there's slow pacing and the dread. And yeah, that pacing became an issue, but man, it's like I said, it was like he had it. It was like he was at the goal line, and instead of running it in, he was at the 1 yard line and he just threw an interception at the end. That's what it felt like. It was just like.
It's like the Seattle Seahawks at the Super Bowl when Russell threw the game away. Yeah.
Russell Wilson. It was like the Russell Wilson throw in the Super Bowl against the Patriots back in 2015 or whenever that was. That's what it felt like when they should have ran it with Marshawn Lynch. It was like he had the Marshawn Lynch right there, but he went the Russell Wilson route. And I don't.
This movie could have been a slam dunk.
All these sports analogies, they won't. I think a lot of people get that one though, because that was pretty famous. But yeah, like I don't know, man.
I don't know what I'd even score. Well, initially coming out of the theater, I was going to be generous enough to give it a B-. Now that I think about it even harder, I would say C+, maybe the lowest I'll go, and maybe the highest too, because it's just like, man, I'm such a horror movie fanatic, and I don't care if it's a slasher or a B-list horror movie or a troll goofy type of Terrifier type of film. I'll watch it and I'll find things about it that I thoroughly enjoy. And there's a lot of positive stuff too. Like one thing that hit me about the cast of Longlegs, you have Michael Monroe, Alicia Witt, who played her mom, Blair Underwood, which is like her boss in the FBI. All of them top tier performance, and even had a top tier script for them to work with. But the plot itself just it kind of took you out of the sense that you're in theater sitting and watching a legit horror movie, because it's just like, all right, I want to leave traumatized, honestly. And it didn't do that for me. I left disturbed but not traumatized, and there just like so much chaotic shit going on that's in connection to how Longlegs is organizing these murders, and the movie kind of almost puts you in Lee Harker's perspective. Like you when she's doing an investigation, you're with her. You hear her breathing, you hear her heartbeat, and all that. Uh, there's almost no jump scares. Well, at least in my opinion, there wasn't any real jump scares. But it's one of those movies where you see it once, and there should be plenty enough. Uh, I personally, as a film critic, I'll go back to the theater on like a Tuesday to catch it one more time to make sure I'm not going crazy. But other than that, like it's almost false advertisement calling it scariest film of 2024.
Yeah, what's up, Blake? And like, yeah, like you said, I wanted to leave terrified, and I just didn't. This movie had the potential, but it failed to bring it all together properly to where it made sense. Yeah, and like when I was out there talking with Blake and Deontay in the lobby, Blake was like, I was telling him my issues with it, and he was like, I don't know. The more you talk about it, it sounds like the more you're starting to not like it. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I was like, you're actually right. Like, the more I thought about it, I was like, hold on. And then that kind of reminiscent there this week, where I was like, the more I thought about it, I was like, man, like, I'm not gonna remember that movie. Like, it's just gonna go out of my brain. Like, it's not gonna stick. It's not gonna stick with me. It didn't terrify me. Maybe we're just desensitized. But like, there's so many people saying it stuck with them, and they're gonna be thinking about it for weeks. And Nicolas Cage's his performance has haunted them for the last few days since they've seen it. I've seen all that, and I'm just like, man, the next day I wasn't even thinking about Longlegs. Like,
it's like, God, man, and that's horrible too. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Ben Stewart, fact checker extraordinaire and human relations specialist of Comically Inclined. Thank you for tuning in. He is here for Longlegs as well. I'm on the same page as Jacob about unfortunately being able to forget Longlegs. I know it's going to be another Micah Monroe movie that I'll keep in the back of my mind, and the allegation that this is supposed to be one of Nick Cage's most crucial roles in all of his film career, which wasn't, but I kind of enjoyed it when he got serious at times, because his character was like a love child of Elvis Presley and Heath Ledger's Joker. Yeah, and what got me is that he was going for like this Charles Manson type of vibe, and then he just goes and becomes Nick Cage in the movie. It's like, bro, we know you're Nick Cage, but we don't want to like realize you're Nick Cage while watching the movie. And he just does his Elvis dance, starts singing at random moments of the movie. And I don't even know what the fuck songs he's singing. So it's just like, bro, you don't have to do all that to creep people out, bro. He was singing some. I know there's one song that like Get It On song from the early 70s by that band T-Rex or something. He had like a weird T-Rex. That was another thing. He had like a weird obsession with music that they kind of hint at. Yeah. But like, it's just there. It's just like, it's almost like feeling like it's not where it's not fleshed out enough to matter, but it's not like it couldn't, like there's no reason for it to be there. Like I didn't get it. Like why would you put it in there if you're not? And yeah, I just said that earlier, Blake, that I think it is, the marketing was better, I think, overall. Yeah, honestly,
exactly. They hinted at many things. And like Ben Stewart, hey, if you want to be the HR here, I mean, I don't have a lot of human relation issues because it's just me and Deontay really, and Nick when he wants to not be in his weird troll hole. I don't know where little Nick is right now, but Yeah, you can come anytime. But yeah, I don't really
Oh,
like Nicolas Cage. He should have. I love Nicolas Cage, but it got to the point where me and my friend we were laughing. Like he made us laugh. Lawson's joining.
What's
what's
up?
going on, man?
Hey,
This is Lawson, my friend I was just talking about that I saw it with. He just came in as a surprise. I did a surprise last minute. We've been talking about Longlegs, Lawson.
oh yeah,
But yeah, we both kind of talked about it, and what I was saying about Nicolas Cage was we were both laughing at it. He was just too, like, he was supposed to be scary, and everybody's like, oh, Nicolas Cage is terrifying. He's going to be horrible. And, like, he's so scary. He's under my skin. I've been thinking about his character for days, and, like, me and Lawson, we were just laughing at him the whole time. And, like, yeah, like, that's what me and Lawson did. We just looked at each other like, what is, like, just laughed. We just laughed because it was like, what are you doing? Like, there was a line, and sometimes he smacked it. He smacked that line perfectly, and then other times he just went right above it and just went full Nick Cage. Let's be weird and crazy for being weird and crazy. The whole scene when he goes in the drugstore and he goes and gets those medicines or whatever, and she's like, "Daddy, there's a weirdo here" or something, and he does the weird hand thing with his eyes. That whole scene was pointless. There was no point in that. Like, that's a scene you could have cut 4 minutes off the movie right there. Just cut that.
Yeah, like Blake said, that it was the inconsistency for sure. Because if they would have like connected the music and some of the random scenes with Longlegs to other parts of the movie, I would have given them a higher score. But I gave them a C plus. It's probably like a 7 out of 10, maybe 7.5 on a good day. I honestly, all the rest of the cast, they did their thing. Like when I was looking at Lee Harker, I wasn't looking at Micah Monroe, so I really appreciated her nailing her role that way. Blair Underwood was a great FBI boss for her, and
that's something I wanted to touch on too. I forgot about. I haven't given any credit to Blair Underwood. He was great as a head detective. He was actually really damn good. Like, he was good in the. He was like a good in the serious scenes, and he kind of helped ground the movie when Nicolas Cage would kind of take it off into this weird atmosphere. He kind of helped ground it and keep it in that gritty crime realism. So yeah, I think he's the underdog of this movie is Blair Underwood. I don't think he's getting it. I haven't seen anything about his performance. I think he should get some praise for his performance because he played he really played well as a detective. He was funny at times. He seemed like a guy you could know, and like he also reacted to situations that are strange that normal people would react like that. That's how normal people would react. So like, shout out to him.
Yeah, and I got so used to his character that when the tragedy finally came to his family, it was just like, oh, I saw it coming, but I didn't want it to happen to him. I was like, he's a good dude. Why did
that was the other thing that was predictable? I forgot to mention was besides the mom thing was as soon as we got introduced to his wife and daughter, I was like, yep, they're going to be in peril in the third act.
Yeah, big time.
I was like, oh no, don't do this, and then. Because like I was liking him, and I was like, oh, I hope his family's okay. Like the whole movie, I was thinking in the back of my head, I hope his family makes it out okay. And then we see what happens. But I mean, the daughter, I guess, makes it out fine. But I guess, or her soul is still in that thing. We'll never know. But I don't know what was going on with that whole situation. But yeah, it just was weird. It just was really. And I think those tonal inconsistencies, I think those things are what takes you out of it. Like, I think that's why maybe us, like a lot of people said they were so in like immersed, and like I was immersed in the first act for sure. I felt like I was there, but then it's like they went too far. Nicolas Cage went too far with his performance, and they let him weird out too much.
Yeah.
That it took you out of it, where you're like, okay, I'm kind of detached from this movie now.
It's a gamble.
The first half of that movie, I was like, this atmosphere is great. The cinematography is great. The scene where she's in the house and she sees him outside and goes outside, and then she sees him in her house. I was like, this is really well done. And then about halfway, the train hit a banana peel and it derailed, and it never recovered.
Big time.
Like the more I talk about it with people, it's just like the more I might change my B+ to a B now. I might go just a solid B. I still think it's good, just because of that cinematography and that first act. Like I said, brings a lot of goodwill. But man, and I'm a weirdo. So I love creepy weirdo serial killers, and I thought Nicolas Cage was going to be perfect for this movie. Like I was like, oh my god, yes. And then I was just like, and then when I saw like the glimpse of him where he's like I don't know if he's a cross dresser. I don't know what he's trying to do with that. I don't know exactly what his, like, again, we don't get much on it, so it doesn't really matter. But
right.
Whatever he was doing, that Marilyn Manson look, that creepy look, like he looked like his look was perfect. Just the acting, they let him just take it to Nicolas Cage, and they let him take it too far, where it just made it where it was just dark humor more than it was scary and horror. And maybe, like I said, maybe we're all just messed up in the head, and that stuff is creepy to other people, because apparently a lot of people are being creeped out by his performance, but he made me laugh way more than he terrified me.
Yeah, I was
like I've been going around the house going cuckoo like over and over again.
Oh.
That's the only scene that freaked me out of that whole movie, is the beginning when you see him, or when she goes out to see the car, when she's a little girl. She goes out to see the car, and then you see Nick Cage in the very back of the frame, and he's leaning out from behind her house, and he goes cuckoo like that. That creeped me out. That creeped me out. And when they first show his face, that shot when it's like above to his neck and then his face comes down, that was the only two times that ever scared me, creeped me out, were those two.
Man, they were really riding on Nick Cage's success with this. They had and Nick Cage kind of has that weird track record when he's trying to do like really, really, really serious movies too. So this is like, you kind of need to play to Nick Cage's strengths and use that to your advantage. And then the last thing I'll say, like part of the reason why I'm sticking with the C+ is there's 3 books in this movie, which basically 3 acts if you're like in the film world, and all of those could have been extended to explain a little bit more of what was going on. Micah Monroe is kind of like this generation's next scream queen, where due to her performances in movies like It Follows and other films like that. Kind of a good pair with Nick Cage a little bit. If Nick Cage would have cut out all of his goofy singing and all that, he would have just left it with him just hail Satan, banging his head into an interrogation table. Then I probably would have said this is his top 2 performances in his whole career. But it didn't go that route at all.
I think it probably didn't help that he was a producer on the film. I think because when you're a producer, they can't say dial it back, because he has to have some creative input, and they can't just cut his performance down.
Yeah. And that winds up hurting Osgood Perkins in the end too. So it's like, damn, man, I don't want you to start your career off with something like that.
Yeah,
but
like Blake said, it truly felt like it was rushed after about halfway through, and they just gave up on making it make all sense and having proper storytelling. Yeah, there was just too many threads there's too many threads to pull. Like there's too many. You could literally. It was just like it felt like he went ambitious with it, but he didn't really have the full concept grasped. And he was like, "Oh, we're gonna do it anyway," type of thing. That's almost what it felt like. We're just gonna do this anyway because people are gonna be creeped out by Nicolas Cage, and it just didn't. It didn't. It's a good movie, but there's a. I even said this to somebody when I got home that night. I said, it's a good movie, but I see a version of this movie that's a masterpiece. Like I see a version of this movie that could have been one of the best serial killers movies, thrillers of all time. But it's just the execution, the rushed storytelling, that Nicolas Cage going too over the top, where it just, and that sucks to say because I love Nicolas Cage, but yeah.
Yeah. Real quick shout out to Rated Hayes J Gaming. Thank you for tuning in and watching the reviews with us. I thought I said everything about Longlegs that I was going to say, but I did forget something. Nick Cage. Oh damn! Why did I forget already? I'll come back to it later. But that's all I got for now on Longlegs.
You got anything to say, Lawson?
I give it a 6.5 out of 10. I said it could have been great, but just wasn't. It's too bad. I think if they had his character like say Kevin Spacey in Seven, at the end of Seven, it would have been perfect.
Yeah, Seven was a great movie.
And the silver ball that was in the head of the doll, that went nowhere. When he shot the doll in the head and the black stuff came out of her head, that went nowhere. They had too many irons in the fire, and it was just sloppy halfway through. But the first half, like I even pointed out to Jake, I said, look, he's shooting this like Chinatown. Said Chinatown, Polanski shot the back of Jack Nicholson more than the front, so the audience could discover what he discovers at the same time that his character does. And they were doing that, and I was like, this is good, and but they lost that steam.
Yeah. Now I remember, like when he mentioned the Seven, there was also some more parallels made to him and I believe it was Hannibal Lecter's movie. Have you guys seen the meme where like there's a photo of like Micah and her character just like walking around with a gun and investigating a house, and the person that was investigating, I think it's Billy the Kid, the serial killer from that movie that was copying Hannibal Lecter.
Buffalo Bill,
yeah.
Bill.
There's a meme out right now with all the parallels between that and that movie. I was like, that's a strange comparison. I can see why y'all did that, but two completely different leagues of movies in that genre.
The only thing I can see that's comparable between that Nicolas Cage and Buffalo Bill is the cross-dressing part, the feminism part, where he's kind of feminine.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can see that would be kind of the same about that.
Like a major shout out to that movie, honestly.
Yeah. If anything, I would say if this comes, I'll say this is worth a watch if it's like on Netflix or something. Like if you have a service, and I'd say you could stream it and watch it, but I wouldn't say go out to the theater and watch this. I can't recommend, which I hate to say it because I wanted this movie to be my favorite movie of the year, but like, I'm gonna be honest with this. That's the whole point of starting this page, was to talk about movies and be honest, and like, give people my recommendations, and like, I can't recommend. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But I'd stream it. I still think it's worth a watch, but don't go out to the theaters and see this. I don't think I think there are better movies being made. I think Neon will have a better hit coming out with. They're coming out with Nora later this year, which is a Sean Baker film, which I'm super excited for. So I think Neon just had a little bit of a miss the last few movies because Immaculate kind of didn't really hit for me either.
Yeah.
So hopefully they get back on track because I love them. They're like the new A24. I had nothing but support for them, and I'd love to work with them someday. And yeah, but I think that's all I have to say on Longlegs.
Yeah, really quick shout out to my mom. Thank you for tuning in.
Shout out Deontay's mom.
Hey. Yep, that's all I got for Longlegs.
Oh crap! I had one thing. I saw a review. I read a review, and I did like, and it's kind of what piggybacking off of what you said earlier and what Lawson said a while ago about putting you in Michael Monroe's perspective. I loved when the camera would move past her and it would go behind her and it would just show like there's one scene where they go in the barn where they find the one doll or whatever. When they find when they first find the one doll, and they go in that barn, and then the camera keeps going out and it goes out to the open pitch black outside, and you're like looking everywhere for like, where's Nicolas Cage's character? And I like that effect because it makes you think like, oh, he could be anywhere. It adds that effect. It kind of adds like the Halloween effect, like Michael Myers evil could be anywhere, kind of like he could be anywhere. So I did really appreciate that cinematography. The cinematographer on this deserves all the credit for sure. Cinematography really helped carry this movie.
Big time. I definitely agree on that. Like that one, like when you watch the Halloween movies and they do like that major wide shot of the street that everybody lives on in Haddonfield, and like anywhere like behind the bushes or like a tree or something, like if you watch closely in some movies, you'll see Michael Myers peeking his head out. Like that's what the kind of the effect that they were going for with that movie. And I really I appreciated that. You can tell Osgood Perkins is a horror movie fan down to the heart, but this movie in particular just wasn't his turn.
Yeah, I think that's it for Longlegs. Now it's time for the hit, Maxxxine. The 80s, maybe classic, maybe not. Who knows? But I guess I want to start this off. I know, Lawson, you've only seen X. And Deontay, you've seen both X and Pearl, right?
Yep.
Okay. So like, I guess I'll pass this around. What do you guys, because I kind of want to talk about the trilogy as a whole to kind of lead into Maxxxine. What do you guys think about the trilogy? What so far, what you've seen, like Lawson, you've seen on the X, I know, but like what you think about A24's first trilogy, like as the first two movies anyway?
You want me or him?
Either one.
Oh, yeah, you're good to go, Lawson.
Okay. I thought X was a good standalone film. I mean, this Maxxxine is good, but I told you when we left the theater, it feels unnecessary. It's well made, but there's no reason for this film to exist.
Yeah.
X would have been fine by itself. Besides money, there's really no reason to make a trilogy of stuff like this. You know, it didn't have the urban vibe that made X so impactful. They said just unnecessary.
Yeah, it's one of those throwaway slasher films. Like, and horror does have a ton of throwaways. You see it one time, and that's plenty of times for a lot of these movies. But X is one of those movies where I didn't even flinch to go back and look and see it again. Like, I love the fact that they had like an all-star cast. The plot was a little bit fun for like adult vices wise, but the plot was kind of risky, and for a group of like 20 to 30 something year olds, like all working together but they're getting taken down by like a freaky elderly couple was a little bit like, whoa. Like, it's like these guys are moving like Batman through the night and just taking down these dudes one at a time. And it's just like, wow, at some point, somebody's got to overpower them because it's just,
What'd you think about
that's a
Pearl?
crazy way to go out. What's that?
What'd you think about Pearl?
And in comparison to X and Maxxxine, Pearl was an even bigger waste of time, in my opinion. It's just like supposed to be like a prequel to X or something of that nature. And
it's the old lady as a little. It shows how the old lady was crazy as young. It's played by the same girl that plays Maxxxine, so people always get that confused. But it's not Maxxxine, it's Pearl. It's the old, because Mia Goth actually plays the old lady in X too. She has a bunch of prosthetics on. She's the old lady in X as well. She was playing both roles. They just put a lot of prosthetics on her. But yeah. So basically, you guys and like Blake in the comments here said that Pearl would be last. Pearl was definitely last for me too.
Big time.
I'm trying to click off of that and it's not letting me. But yeah. I mean, some people absolutely love Pearl, and I get it because it is like a girl boss movie. I can see it where it's like, get 'em girl, like, you know, like that type of movie. So for that, I could see it having fans, but like you guys said, I think, or like you said, Deontay, Lawson hasn't seen it, which you don't really. I'm not gonna say you need to see it but like when I first saw it in theaters, I gave it. I guess I'll start with X. I need to start with X. Gosh, I'm jumping around. X. When it came out in 2022, that movie floored me because we had not got a horror movie like that in so long, where it was like classic cinematography, Texas Chainsaw vibes. I was so elated with X. I love Jenna Ortega. Jenna Ortega, if you're seeing this, I'm single. Hit me up. You know me. You know my type. But no. But Kid Cudi was in it. Like, I love Kid Cudi. Like, all of these great actors. And I just loved, like, it was such a good throwback grindhouse slasher film. And I love seeing it in theaters. I think I gave it like an 8. It was I think it was my second favorite movie of 2022 behind The Batman. And I was elated. I loved X so much. And then when I saw Pearl was coming out a few months later, I was so excited. And then I watched it. I gave it like a B- when I watched it. And I saw it in theaters, and I haven't thought about it since. I thought Mia Goth, and that's the whole through line throughout this whole series, is Mia Goth. She's a great actress. She's great. Like, she's definitely none of the failings of any of these movies are on her. She gives all the best performances in all 3 of these movies. She's a new scream queen as well. She's just like, she's absolutely fantastic. But it was just, I don't know. I haven't watched either since. Now, X, the reason why I haven't watched X again, it is because it is a certain type of movie where it's not one you rewatch a lot, because there's, like Deontay said, it's a lot of adult vices. And there's old people smashing, and it's just very out there and very raw. So it's not a movie you want to put on a lot. So that's the reason why I haven't seen X in theaters. But Pearls in theaters has totally been because I was like, I'm bored. Like, I own it because I wanted to own the whole trilogy, but I haven't watched it. It just sits on my shelf. But yeah, Pearl, and I've been seeing Pearl get like, because like with Maxxxine, everybody's ranking him right now. And just, I don't see what people are seeing in Pearl. Like, it has baffled me for 2 years now. What people are calling Pearl a masterpiece, way better than X even, and I'm just like, what wavelength are you on that I'm not on? Like, I wish I could see that, but like, where? Like, Pearl was such just a misguided movie. Yeah, and I can see that, but like Pearl, it was just slow. It didn't have much. I mean, my thoughts on Pearl was great performance by Mia Goth. That's about it. Like the story was very boring, very slow. They try to do like Wizard of Oz, Golden Age of Hollywood, and they did the setting, and that's X is definitely don't watch with anyone. Yeah, you want to come watch X on a first date? Perfect first date movie, by the way.
Oh man,
Everyone should watch X on the first date, but no. Pearl, and that's the through line through all these movies as well. The cinematography, the setting they go for, like Blake said about Maxxxine being and felt like it was made in the 80s. The setting Ty West goes for, he nails always. Pearl, it feels like a golden age. It feels like you're back in the Wizard of Oz movies. The way it's shot, the color grading he did. X, Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes all over that 70s grindhouse, and then Maxxxine 80s thriller, kind of giallo horror is what his biggest inspiration was. He said, maybe a kindred. Yeah, but like, I mean, if that's what you're into, but yeah, like the 80s vibe was just great, and like he does the vibes and all those great. But yeah, for my thoughts on the trilogy as a whole, the first two, since I didn't have a review, I actually did review Pearl. I have a written review of Pearl, actually, if you want to go to my Instagram. I can't believe I've been around that long doing this, but I feel that movie feels like it was 6 years ago. But like, yeah, and like, it's good, I guess, but like,
yeah, it's just not like one of those memorable classics.
It wasn't needed. X is still one of my favorites, though. I love X. It's up there in my A24 list. It's one of the best A24 horrors for sure. I love X. I still love X to this day. And then now, I guess we get into the main event of Maxxxine, which is, I'm gonna let you guys go first because I have an interesting story with my experience with this. So, Deontay or Lawson, whoever wants to take it away. What do you think of Maxxxine, guys?
Go ahead.
I will say for Maxxxine, like Blake was saying, he gave it an 8.5. I'm still trying to figure it out. I know it's somewhere in the B range for me. It was so many badass things done with this movie, so I'm kind of glad it turned out better than Longlegs. Maybe not as horror movie standards goes, but at least pure entertainment value and watching gore and seeing bad characters get justice served to them and feeling sorry for the innocent that get hurt in this movie too. Because since we're already in spoiler territory, the villain of this movie is actually like supposedly either the Night Stalker himself or like a mirror killer of Night Stalker that's like been running rampant out in LA and just taking people down, preferably women. And all throughout the movie, Maxxxine is trying to land this huge role for a very popular director in Hollywood. And it's like they're doing like a horror movie sequel. And they lost the main actress, I believe, and Maxxxine her role is to become the person that takes over as the main character. And the whole time she's just stressed out. She doesn't know like what's going on. Like some of her friends are popping up dead. The only thing she remembers is that they're all going to the same house party in the hills. And you come to find out that not only is the villain her dad, so that was a wild turn for me. Like maybe predictable for some people, but that was still pretty wild knowing that it's Maxxxine and her father. And turns out that he's like this Christian extremist, and people who he deems is considered sinners are the ones that deserve to die in the most horrible death possible. So he goes on his killing spree, and then one body led to another, and Maxxxine just like, all right, I gotta take whoever the hell this dude is out, and she takes it upon herself to take him down, which that was like the most badass part of the movie. That's why the movie, in my opinion, will not sink below a B. because she had her moment to just be like, "Yo, I'm even crazier than you are." So, so I really appreciated Maxxine like being that boss babe, scream queen, to save the day or at least avenge her friends.
I'm glad I have you here because you go through the plot and describe it a lot better than I can. But yeah, okay. Lawson.
I give it a 7 out of 10. I guess it's well made, it's well shot, good songs and things like that. But again, it's just an unnecessary film. Is all I keep coming back to. There has a few spots at the end that was a little goofy, like the woman that runs out with the thing in her eye and says, "I got him," and then just falls over goofily into the bushes.
Oh man,
That was a little. I didn't care for that, but it's a well-made film, but an unnecessary film. I don't think it should have been made.
that's fair.
Mine is I guess I'll get into mine. That hairpiece, yeah.
Giancarlo.
He's always great in every movie. But shoot. When I first watched, because like I said, this is my most anticipated with the Fall Guy and Longlegs. When I first watched this movie, I gave it an A, a 4.5 out of 5. I absolutely loved it. I was riding the high. I was like, this is one of my favorite movies of the year. And then throughout the week, I thought about it more, and I was like, I saw some other people, some famous YouTube movie critics talk about it, and I watched some other podcasts on it, and just people talking about it, see what the general consensus was. And then I was thinking, okay, yeah, I can see where because a lot of people are having issues with some of this, and I was like, yeah, I can see that. And they said it's a lot of fluff, not a lot of story, and it doesn't feel like it comes together and all that. And I was like, oh, okay, I can see things, but I was like, I really love this movie. I said, I guess I just loved it a lot more. I guess the 80s style works for me more. And on rewatch, when the hype was away, because I watched it a week later with the hype gone, because I'd already seen it. I've already, released my out of theater reaction. I've already watched all these people talk about it. I was like, I'm going in just hoping. I was hoping that it would hold up to that 4.5, and it sadly does not. I still gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd because I think it is a really good to great movie, but I'd give it like a B+, I think. I think I'm at a B+, because when you go on rewatch and all that, I don't know, I'm a whore for synth. I love synth music.
Mm-hmm.
And just 80s throwback, 80s retro vibes. Like, that just captures me. I love that time period. I love the music from the 80s. I love all that synth. I love the lighting they were doing, all the classic. And then, I mean, he was very much influenced by Brian De Palma as well for this movie, especially the movie Body Double, which is actually not a very good movie. Me and Lawson had actually watched that movie together. The movie that helped inspire this movie is definitely better than that movie. But he was very inspired by De Palma and Giallo horror, and I haven't seen any Giallo horror. I've just seen clips from Suspiria, and I know that a lot of that is basically more vibes than it is story. And when you go into that knowing that, you kind of give it a little more credit, because this story is very much all over. It goes from one scene to the other. Like, it goes to like. It's like little vignettes almost that happen. Like, something happens and then it completely goes to something else, and then that thing's never talked about again. And then it just felt like he was trying to cram. It's almost in Longlegs in that way, where he felt like he was trying to cram too many ideas into this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They don't all work, but because he pulls off that 80s vibe so well, Mia Goth is killing it. And because it has some great slasher moments and the great soundtrack and score, that's where it got me on that B+, is because of all that, of the atmosphere it creates, the tone it sets. And because I wanted to see where Maxxxine went after X. I know a lot of people are, you guys saying it's it's kind of pointless. And X would have been a good standalone. I will say it didn't need to be a trilogy, but it's A24's first trilogy, and I'm biased. I mean, I already said I had their head on my socks, like their logo head on my socks. Like I've already said some pseudo-sexual things. I love A24, all right, but so maybe I'm a little biased because it's an A24 movie, but I'll wear that bias on my sleeve. And I'm just glad we got a trilogy. I wish Pearl would have been better. Wish this would have been better, or at least both up to the grade of X. I think X is by far the best in the trilogy. Maxxxine being second, Pearl being third. But yeah, Maxxxine, like I said, everything with Me Goth, great. The soundtrack, oh my gosh, the opening of Maxxxine the first time I was in the movie theater, I mean, it had me like nodding my head, like, okay, let's go. Like I was hype.
Yeah.
Like it had me hype. It even had me hype on rewatch. I was kind of sitting there in my seat, like, yes. Which my seat was broken where I couldn't put my legs up anyway, so I was already sitting up anyway. But like, thank you, Marcus Theaters. Shout out to them. You have broken chairs, but no, I was having a fun time with that intro, and it really does. It keeps that pace for the first 30 minutes, and it kind of just almost with. The more I'm thinking about it, it kind of ties in with Longlegs. That first act, it really hits, it pops off, and then it just starts to slowly fade off and go off the rails again. Not as bad as Longlegs by any means, but definitely a better movie. But it goes off, I think, the same ways. I think the whole thing with the detectives, either take them out completely or flesh them out. Those detectives they felt so pointless. They didn't need to be there. All they had was the funny death, like Boston said. That death was horrible. I don't know. I get they're trying to do 80s cheese, but it just didn't work in that moment. And I agree with Lawson that it was just goofy. And yeah, like other than that, like the story, it just hopped around, and then like her dad, it's so predictable, which X kind of set it up for that, because if you watch X, you know it's going to be her dad that's the one after her, because in X, it starts out with her running away from her dad. So it's very predictable. The killer is, you know who the killer is before you even, like I knew it was her dad in the first act of the movie, the first time I watched it. It's very predictable on that. But you can get away with that if you execute it well, and they didn't execute any of it well, and it didn't make sense. It's like, okay, you have a bunch of guys here that are with you that had family that think they were taken away by Hollywood, by the devil, and they're all in robes, and they all have shotguns under their robes, and they're in this. You're all in this weird mansion that has the body double, like look to it, and it has like a gondola. You go up, and it's like, how did he pay for this? He's a preacher. How did he set all this up? Deontay got kicked. I guess he'll be coming back, but. I
just want to know, why the hell was he watching his daughter do a striptease show?
Exactly.
It was the same kind of scene as in Billy Friedkin's Cruising and the opening of The Howling, I think. It was that same kind of weird scene, and then it turns out to be her dad. I thought that was strange.
Yeah, like what was the point of that? Like I did not get that. His point, like it was just that scene was there definitely for the vibes, because it wanted to show the leather gloves. You wanted to hear the sound of the leather gloves. He's back.
Yeah.
You wanted to hear the sound of the leather gloves. We're talking about the scene where we're wondering why he paid to see his daughter do the striptease. Because it's her dad that's in there watching her.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's basically just vibes. That whole scene was just trying to set vibes, because it had the red lighting and it had his gloves where you could hear the sound of his gloves, like making that squinchy, those leather gloves.
He wanted to catch his daughter in the act of sinning. That's what he wanted to do.
Besides Mia Goth, I think Elizabeth Debicki was great as a director. She was a good character.
Nailed it.
And The only other good character was the guy that worked at the video store.
I
Because
forgot his name.
you care, at least I cared on both watches. I cared when he died. I was like, oh no, I knew he was gonna die when it set it up. That scene when he goes and shuts the door on the one guy, and then you see the guy in the back. Like I cared like when he died. So like, because he was just kind of sassy and he was just kind of a big movie nerd, and maybe that's why I cared about him, because he was a movie nerd. But besides that, like I was just like, okay. They
He
just
was a
kind of
damn good friend to her too.
Yeah, he was. He had that gigantic Rambo knife.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, that's not going to come into play. That was
It's gonna
kind of
get used
obvious.
against him. It was like, damn it.
Yeah, that was kind of obvious, but like that was a good scene. I love the scene where she goes to the nightclub and she lures Kevin Bacon. My only problem with that is, and I've told Lawson about this, and I will harp on this forever, that is the most convoluted plan of getting a guy to follow you I've ever seen. So she's gonna be, she gets all maked up, like I guess whatever she put makeup on, 80s style dress, whatever, and you're gonna lure this guy to the bathroom. You're gonna expect him to kick every door down and then see that the little tiny window in the very corner is open, and he's gonna come around all the way outside. Like that's like you think that's gonna work? Like he's gonna really go through, kick down all these doors in this woman's restroom, and he's gonna see that tiny, like the window is, maybe if it was a big door open I could see, but it's a tiny little window, and I'm like, if I look at that window being open, I'm not gonna think, oh, they're outside, they escaped through that window. I'm just gonna be like, oh, okay, and then walk back out. But that's how they trap him. Like the way they trapped Kevin Bacon was very convoluted.
Yeah.
And like, it was a cool scene at the not the graveyard, the, what is it called? Junkyard. At the junkyard.
Oh, yeah.
That was a cool scene when he gets crushed in the car. And Kevin Bacon, he was doing a really great sleazy Louisiana detective. Kevin Bacon was Kevin Bacon in the movie. And I liked, that's another, I forgot. Kevin Bacon was great in it as well.
Yeah, he was.
But they incorporate so many. I did like where they go to the Bates Motel and they show the Psycho house.
I didn't.
But the problem with that is, the only reason I liked it is because they mentioned Psycho 2, which is a very underrated sequel, by the way. Shout out to Psycho 2. Go watch that. But there's a scene where she sees Pearl in the window of the Psycho house, and that's reminiscent of a scene exactly in Psycho 2. That's it's a lot creepier in Psycho 2, but where he sees his mother in the window of the house. But that's a very direct reference to Psycho 2. So I loved that part about it. What I didn't love was the whole chase scene with Kevin Bacon. He's just going to walk on this open movie set, have a gun, chase this young girl, 20-something, or I guess she was 33, she said, around, still young-looking woman, around this movie set, not to expect to get caught. And she ends up in the Bates Motel, and that's all they do with it, besides that cool reference to Psycho 2. Like, it was just there to be there, and it felt, I don't know, if you're going to do something with Psycho, do that little Psycho 2 homage and then be done with it, or incorporate the Bates Motel in some other way, but not what they did.
I would say never shoot on a Hitchcock set. That's sacrilegious.
Yeah.
I would never do that. Hitch is the man. I wouldn't step on his toes.
No, not at all. And honestly, like I knew at some point in the movie she was gonna find a way to get him. I know like Kevin Bacon like physically is probably like a harder target to take down compared to all the people that Maxxxine has killed before. Because you start Maxxxine off like the very second scene of the movie, she's going down the alleyway, not a red flag at all, by the way, and she's being followed by this dude who nobody knows if he's the real Night Stalker or what. He walks up on her with a knife. She pretends like she's trying to climb over a fence, and then once he gets just close enough, she turns around and pulls a gun on him. And she completely owns him for like 10 minutes. She's just like, get on your knees, deep throat this gun, and then get naked, lay on your stomach so I can stomp your balls in. And it's just like,
yeah, Oh,
Jeez Louise, like Maxxxine is not to be played with.
both times I watched the movie, I felt that in my nether regions as a man.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're a man, you cannot watch that scene without feeling an ache in your balls. Like that scene, I felt that scene. Like that is the worst any kind of ball attack scene I've ever seen. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of those in movies. I don't watch a lot of I don't know people watching, but like, oh, that scene.
Yeah.
Wow. Both times I was aching. I was aching in my pants. I was like, "Oh my lord!"
She took the sharpest part of her high
Oh.
heel and jammed it. I was like, oh,
But
whoa.
there's an issue. This issue with that scene is, why was he dressed up as Buster Keaton? Because he was definitely dressed up as Buster Keaton. And why was he trying to kill her when he wasn't the Night Stalker nor her father? Like that scene in context with the movie makes no sense.
If you've ever been down on Hollywood Boulevard, nothing makes sense.
Nothing.
I got people trying to sell me mixtapes. I had somebody try to convert me to Scientology. I had homeless people asleep. Nothing on Hollywood Boulevard makes sense.
No. I guess that's what they were going for. They're like, it doesn't have to make sense. Let's just make a cool scene where we get a guy's balls stomped out. I don't know what you got against balls, Ty West, but my God.
Jesus, man. That was the actor was David Dalmakian, right? Or was that a completely different actor?
I think it was a completely different actor, but I could see where you could see it was him because it does look exactly like him. But I don't think it was him because he wasn't credited in it.
But, yeah, that's true. It's just like, man, come on. At least I'll give props to Maxxxine because she's ruthless, and if you play with her too much, she will come for you and I guess body you, for lack of better words. And her dad wound up killing two of her girlfriends and her best friend, which was Leon, the movie nerd at that video store. And she just like, enough is enough. This dude is mine. And this is like, and what made it even sweeter is she had help. So Giancarlo was a part of like being her hero in the movie. And then there was one other guy that I'm not familiar with, and he straight up fed someone to a dog and over Maxxxine. So that was pretty cool. They helped solve her Kevin Bacon problem in a junkyard and squashed him with like that thing that squashes cars.
Yeah. And like, I really did like also, I liked the whole scene where she goes to the house. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, you have this whole cult waiting. They all have shotguns, and the detectives show up. The detectives, it makes sense because they were following her, but it just, like I said, it just it didn't have the storytelling, the writing, the cinematography, everything in that was great, but this again with this, it just needed a better story. It just needed a better story because like that ending could have been so much cooler and so much more developed and fleshed out, and like it just felt like a bunch of cool montage scenes edited together when you think about it. But it's pulled off the 80s again so well, and Mia Goth is carrying that movie and all the great acting and like the cinematography. That's why I give it a B+. But the story is definitely pretty weak in it. Pretty weak. Which it doesn't have to. Not every movie has to have like a great story and like a huge, like this gigantic epic story. But like at least more than what this had. It was just very surface level. Again, kind of like Longlegs. It was surface level. It didn't touch on a lot of things. A lot of things just didn't make sense. It just looked cool though. So like I was just like, okay, I'm more okay with it because it looks badass. But like, I just wish it was on par with X or even better, and it had because what the movie's trying to do is trying to make Maxxxine the heroine of the story, like not like heroin the drug, obviously.
Man, speaking of drugs,
yeah, but like the heroine of the story. and it's trying to show her as badass, and it does that. But I feel like her character could have been done more justice, and I feel like she could have had a stronger character arc. I think that's the problem. The character arc wasn't so strong. It just had this her scene, a few scenes where she kills a few people, and there's a lot of gore involved, but the rest is just a bunch of like non-important things that happen, or like weird side plots that don't really go, a bunch of side plots that don't go anywhere. And it's just like, if we could just rein that in and strengthen her character arc, this would have been up in the A category great movie. But I still think it's a really good it's a near great movie just for the vibes, and it's still really good. I really like it. I feel like I'm complaining about it too much, but like, I just wanted to get out the issues that I had with it. And other than that, though, because I've seen it twice now, and I feel like I'd watch it again. So like, it's rewatchable for me, and that's another thing that I think is great about it. But I just wish it had a stronger character arc, and the plot lines weren't so all over the place. It didn't have all these crazy plot lines. It would have been more tight. The script should have been tighter.
Yeah, that's basically Maxxxine right there. Is porn star turned Hollywood actress. Still doing coke to this very day. She hasn't got that much further in development as she was in X. But hey, if she saved an entire community from the Night Stalker himself, then I can't be mad at her. One last thing I will do as far as praising the movie goes, like I love the chemistry that she has with the director Elizabeth Bender. The way that she kind of just nurtured her, but like kept it like real the entire time, it was just like, damn, it kind of like helped Mia refocus, or Maxxxine refocus and get out of her own head, because she's got all these distractions keeping her from being the best actress she can be. And Elizabeth is constantly on her ass about it. And Maxxxine is like, you know what? If I need to get rid of this distraction once and for all, I think it's time for me to do it. Like, this is the only way I can move forward with my career. And I'm really serious about my passion of becoming like this top tier actress. And the overall message did shine through in that moment, to where she had a dream of becoming the biggest star she could be, and she achieved it. So I'm like, okay, so this is still qualified as a successful movie as far as the plot goes. So I gave it most of the bulk of my high score came from that.
Yeah, like I completely, and that's another thing I guess I would was the arc about how Hollywood is, and like I really liked showing like how tough and cutthroat Hollywood is, and it was trying to show like Hollywood in the 80s. It did a good job of that, and like I said, it did succeed in giving Maxxxine an arc, and it did succeed in finishing that story and the whole trilogy. So for that, it does deserve a lot of points for that, for closing the trilogy. You do get a sense of finality, at least. Yeah. I just wish her character arc had more flesh to it, and it was more developed. The villain was better, and it just had it wasn't so much side plot this, side plot that, and the storyline was more streamlined, and it was just better written. But yeah, like I said, it did put in a lot of work, and the character arc just not enough for me. But like, it was enough for me to make it a really good movie. Almost great for me. 4 out of 5. B+ for sure. Maybe an A- on some days. I would recommend seeing this in theaters if you can, honestly, especially if you're a fan of X or Pearl. But you need to see X to watch this. You don't need to see Pearl to watch this. That's just a precursor.
Yeah.
But you need to see X to watch this for sure. But Pearl you can skip, because it's not even her. It's just the same actress. But yeah, I definitely recommend. This is one I do recommend going to see in theaters for sure.
Yeah, it's Ty West's first trilogy and A24's first trilogy, and they put a bow on it, wrapped it up real good. It said, all right, let's go stick it in a museum now with the rest of the classics.
I just wish it was. I wish for A24's first trilogy it was a little stronger though. I wish
Big
Pearl
time.
was better. Mainly Pearl was like the big like kind of downfall in the trilogy. And then I wish Maxxxine. I don't think I would be as hard on Maxxxine if it wasn't for Pearl not being so good as trilogy wise. But like Maxxxine, I wish they would have just landed the plane better. I mean, just give her a stronger character arc. Make the story more streamlined, flesh it out more. Don't have all these side plots and these things that don't come to anything going around, and just like focus in. And like it's another thing where you have a great movie there, just kind of, streamline it, rein it in. But like overall, still really good. Great vibes, great soundtrack. I've been listening to some of the soundtracks still. Tyler Bates did the score, great score.
Yeah.
I forgot the cinematographer's name, but he nailed it.
Great job.
The production design was insane. Definitely 80s all the way. Great. It's just, yeah. I mean, I think that's all I got to say about Maxxxine, really. You got anything, Lawson?
Yeah, y'all were talking about that theme earlier. I was sitting there thinking that for the past little bit, the theme of the movie of how cutthroat and dog-eat-dog Hollywood is, and it's also kind of a commentary on the type of people that Hollywood can attract.
Yeah.
People that have rough time growing up, that want to do anything possible to be famous, and even at the cost of their morals sometimes.
Yeah, big time. That was definitely a great part of the message. And I think for the most part, like the fans that watched Maxxxine got it. So, like, to get the point across, maybe not. It wasn't as clear to some people as it was to others. But for me, I think I'll give it like a solid B, just because for me it got the point across.
Yeah, I mean, I've said all my issues with it and said what I liked about it. I mean, overall though, check it out for sure. Great. It's great. It's a fun experience to go see in theaters. I saw though that it's already out of Marcus, so I was looking at what was in theaters this weekend. It's already out of Marcus theaters by this weekend. It only lasted 2 weekends at Marcus, so that's kind of sad. So if you really want to see this movie, I'd recommend going to see it sooner rather than later if you can, because it is. It seems to be, at least in our area, leaving theaters pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but it is. But hey, man, Horizon American Saga can stay in theaters all at once, even though nobody's watching it.
Blake is trying to watch it. I'm still trying to figure out if I got the kind of time for a 3-hour film, but
is that the Kevin Costner movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's the only movie I've wanted to see in theaters this year, and I haven't went to see it.
Oh man!
If it wasn't for this guy, I would never go to the theater.
That's true. I have to drag him kicking and
He
screaming.
drags me kicking and screaming a lot of times.
Yes.
Man. And this is like the second time I've ran it, or at the very least I ran into Jacob at Marcus.
Yeah, I'm always trying to see new movies, man. That's what I got to do for the show. I guess, even though the last 4 months I haven't been on here, but I'm making a comeback. What's that song? Don't call it a comeback. I don't know.
A comeback.
I was gonna try to make a cool badass "I'm coming back" thing, but it didn't work. Yeah, what Blake said about preferring theater watches as much as possible. Yeah, I just love being in a theater because it's just dark. You get to zone in on the screen. Hopefully, there's not a bunch of assholes around you and dumbasses. Like, literally just anytime you want to watch whatever. Heck yeah, man, I'll hit you up for sure. We can get
planning on doing Horizon in the next episode?
I do not. I don't. I would be it would be a disservice of me to do that movie because I have no interest in that whatsoever.
True that.
Because it's
I think,
supposed to be in four. It's supposed to be in 4 parts. I heard it's going to be 4 parts.
ooh.
I heard
Yeah.
they canceled the. I heard
But
they canceled the sequel.
Lawson
So bad.
heard they already canceled the sequels. Apparently, they were supposed to have 3 sequels already made though, and they said all of them were going to be 3 hours each. So that's 12 hours altogether. That's like Lord of the Rings, but more, even more than Lord of the Rings. And like, I like westerns, but I don't like them that much. Like, I don't need to watch 12 hours of that. And apparently,
Yeah.
Kevin Costner's not in the entire movie. He's only in half of it, is what I heard. It's got like Rotten Tomatoes got like a 40%. I've seen a lot of critics say it's not good. It's just a bunch of messy side plots. So I've heard it's not that good. So I don't know. Maybe you should do some research on if you want to see that movie or not, because it's not getting the best. But what next couple of movies on your list? Well, that's a great question. I'll answer you. I'm seeing Twisters hopefully this weekend.
Twisters.
Hopefully, and I'm rewatching Longlegs this weekend. There's a few buddies of mine that haven't seen it that want to see it, and hopefully I come out of Longlegs. Hopefully it's the reverse of Maxxxine. Hopefully my grade goes up on the Longlegs rewatch, and not down like it did on the Maxxxine rewatch.
Oh man.
But I'm hoping that I love Longlegs more going into it. I hope so. But hey, that tells you I liked it at least some, that I'm willing to watch it again. So, although I was down on Longlegs a lot, there is a lot of good things I did like about it.
True that.
But yeah, I'm going to see Twisters for sure. Deadpool and Wolverine comes out next weekend, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
I know you'll be covering that on the main one. I'll be seeing that for sure. I don't know when, because I may be out of town next weekend, so I may miss opening weekend of that movie, sadly. But I'm hoping to get to see that soon, because as much as I talk about the MCU the last few podcast episodes and not liking it so much, this is going to get me back. Hopefully. I'm hoping the MCU comes back with a W. I'm wanting it for them more than anything. I'm wanting Deadpool and Wolverine to smash all the records.
Yeah.
I really am cheering on to come. I'm really in. Yeah, I know a lot of people will. And I mean, I've already heard about all the cameos and stuff. I just want a good movie. I want MCU to come back. I do miss good MCU movies. I feel like we haven't gotten one in a long time.
Like a movie. Like, this is supposed to be projected to beat, or at least be in the same like class as Endgame and Infinity War. So we'll see how those box office sales do, and if it's actually worth the hype and the money that it's making, or if it's just glorified dumpster baby trash.
Yeah,
but we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, that shows you how excited I am, though. I have a film page, and Deadpool and Wolverine, for everybody in the film community, is like the next coming of Jesus lately. Like, I've been seeing everybody just posting about it like nonsense and like crazy. So I feel like I should be more hype about it just because I'm in this space. But I'm like, I heard I may be out of town next weekend. I'm like, and I'm really not sad if I miss it opening weekend. And used to, if I missed the MCU movie opening week, I was depressed. Like, I was like, I can't believe I'm missing this. Like, I'd be so sad if I didn't catch the new MCU movie opening week. I had to. It was just a have to. And lately it hasn't been that way for me, where I'm like, I could watch it I'll wait till it gets to streaming for free. Like, I haven't even seen the Marvels yet, for that matter. So, like,
dang,
like, it's been this. So, I got a lot on this movie. I hope Deadpool and Wolverine comes swinging, because it's gonna need it to bring me back to the MCU for sure.
Yeah, it's me, Blake, and
I brought you over to the dark side. You like to watch older movies now.
I will say Lawson has, because when I first started this page, I was more into the comic book nerdy stuff than I was classic films, and now I've like over the last, if I show you my watch list over the last 6 months, a lot of them were pre 1990. So so like I have definitely, I don't know if it's just with my old age, maybe I turned 25, so maybe I'm going to be turning 26 in a few months. Maybe it's my old age. I don't know what it is, but just that young spirit in me is just kind of like, I want to watch like Chinatown or Godfather or something, I'm more in those headspaces than I am. Yes, the movies on his wall: Vertigo, Godfather, Chinatown,
Nice.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
And that one.
Cinema Paradiso, the best.
I finally got him to watch that one.
Man.
The best foreign film ever made. Go check that out.
Really?
It's the best foreign film ever made.
I have to check that out.
Oh, Blake in the comments. Yeah, I already got you, boy. That's in my top 100 favorite films of all time. That movie is amazing. You are completely right on that one. Anybody, go watch The Count of Monte Cristo. Not just, if you haven't seen The Count of Monte Cristo, it came out in the early 2000s, I think, but it's a great movie. Yeah, that's in my top 100 for sure. Love that movie. But yeah, I mean, but for Jacob's Film Perspectives, that's about it for me. I mean, I'll be seeing Twisters. I'm going to do out of theater reaction. Like I said, go follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. It's the same name, Jacob's Film Perspectives. You won't get you're not going to get great thoughts. Like, I've had a few people comment on my TikToks, like, you didn't really go into the movie in depth, or like, you didn't really say much. Well, that's the whole point. Like, you have
to, I don't know. I've seen your in the car initial reaction reviews, and maybe I'm not seeing what these people are seeing. But
well, it's just been and it hasn't been many. It's just been a few comments, but like a lot of people are loving them, which is great. Because I'm like, that's the whole point. It's supposed to be just like off the rip, off the top. I don't have any research. I'm coming out. It's like I'm literally fresh out of seeing the movie like 5 minutes ago. And I'm just off the rip. I'm trying to keep it under a minute off the rip, my thoughts. But so yeah, the podcast for sure is where if you really want my movie thoughts, still the podcast is the way. I have it straight from that. And definitely go check that out though. Twisters, maybe I'll see Twisters and see if I want to do an episode on it. I'm not sure about it, but we'll see. But yeah, that's all I got for updates and anything. Deadpool and Wolverine, I may join you guys on the main one, possibly, if I watch it in time. If I watch it in time, though. I'm not going to hold you guys up. But if not, it'll be... I'm trying to think what's coming out.
So I think after Deadpool is like we're going straight into the August releases.
Because we hit a dead zone there in August. August tends to be a dead zone sometimes. September tends to be a dead zone for movies. So yeah, I don't know. Unless Twisters is my favorite movie of the year, don't expect an episode on Twisters because I can't do it. I can't talk about Twisters for more than 15 minutes. So like, I don't think I'd have much to say. So that's going to be a fun popcorn movie, but hopefully I'll be coming back soon in a few months. There'll be something that I'll want to come back and talk. I've been wanting to talk movies again. I've been missing this for sure.
Yeah, it's just like off the top of the head, and there's nothing that we can remember for August and September releases. But as soon as we end the podcast and we get back to surfing social media, we're probably going to run into like 4 or 5 different like bangers. So you can stay tuned and follow Jacob on his social media. And if you already do, but you can't find it, we'll share it over on the Saturday Night Nerd stuff as well. So it'll be easier to track down all his announcements and what shows he's got coming up next.
All right. I guess that's it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate everybody for tuning in.
Yes, sir.
So, alrighty. I will end the stream.